Okay, so welcome to Diversity Masterminds. I'm Liz Whitehead, and I'm here with Heather. Hi, Heather.
Hi.
And we're going to just give you a little rundown about what Diversity Masterminds is, what you can expect from the 8-week course, and then give you guys plenty of time to ask questions
Lots
also.
of questions.
Yeah. So Heather and I came up with Diversity Masterminds because we've been doing this a long time. We've
Mhm.
been in the certification space. I worked for WPEO, which is the certifying body in New York and DC, for 10 years. Then I went to graduate school, and then I went to work for We Connect International, which is the international certifying body. So I realized that people need a little extra help. They get certified, they can go to the I'm certified now what's, they can go to the different events, but a lot of people need more hands-on help and accountability in terms of what they need. So I started my company, then Heather approached me with her idea. Heather, how did you come up with Diversity Masterminds?
Well, for the past 10 years, Certify My Company has facilitated certifications for thousands of suppliers. And so many times they'll come back to me and they'll say, well, I'm not going to recertify because I didn't get anything out of my certification. So I started asking them some questions. Did you do this? Did you approach this person when you went to the conference? How did it go? And their answers all made me realize that they were not doing any of those things. So I wanted to create a program that can help these companies really understand how to use their certification to really for the business development tool that it is. And so I knew Liz had some of that expertise and I had some of that expertise, and together we have a whole lot of expertise. So here we are.
Yeah. And we developed it as an 8-week class, so it is ongoing. You do have accountability not only from us but from your peers, but it is only 8 weeks. So in 8 weeks we ramp up from, okay, I don't really know what I'm doing with my certification. Maybe I'm newly certified and I'm just figuring it out, or maybe I've been certified for several years and it seems like everybody else knows something that I don't. And so we wanted people to be able to go from there to feeling completely confident, having a roadmap to how they want to use their certification. And in 8 weeks, I'll show you the modules that we go through.
And it's
These
going to
are
be
the
a little bit
different,
different for everybody. I mean, one thing that I
yeah,
like to tell people is that certification is a one-size-fits-all tool, but how you use it is not. So the analogy I give when I give my talks about business development is about, think of a hammer and tell me all the different uses of a hammer, right? You can bang a nail into the wall, which is the obvious one. You can crack open a nut. You can discipline your husband when he misbehaves. Whatever you need to do with that hammer is a great tool, but how each company uses it is going to be slightly different.
right. And that's why we have cohorts of about 6 business owners. We'd like to keep it small so that we can customize the information for the people that are in the cohort and they can start to learn from each other. We're going to go a little bit through the first module. The first module gives you an overview of what we're going to go through the whole time, but I wanted to touch on the other modules so you can get a sense of what each one is and ask questions about any of these. So the first module, like I said, it's an overview. The second module is think globally, act locally. In that module, we go over the importance of getting to know your regional organization and all of the different opportunities that are available to you through that organization. One of the things I always say is that if you see people on stage at the WeBank event, chances are they started out first getting involved locally. So we tell you how to do that. The next one is getting to know your target client. Heather, you mentioned you talked to someone at the WeBank conference about the importance of this, how you target your clients.
Yes. Yeah. So some of the corporations will, when we go to let me back up. Oftentimes people will go to these conferences because they want to meet with one of the Fortune 1000 companies that are there. These are kind of like everyone's looking at them and they're on this pedestal. However, they're not the perfect target or client for every single business. So it's important to know who you're going to target and how to find those people. So if you're not ready or don't want to do business with a Fortune 100 or a Fortune 1000 company, that's absolutely legitimate. Just know how to find the other people, because they all, almost every single one of those companies that are there that are part of the Fortune 500, Fortune 1000, require that their prime suppliers use other diverse suppliers. So there's so many different ways to find your client list, your target client list. And that's one of the ways that we cover, one of the topics we cover is how to find those clients.
Yeah. And then this is, I think, one of our favorite ones is the differentiating yourself conversation. And one of the reasons we set this up in 8 modules that go week to week is that each module builds on the other one. So from the very beginning, we're talking about what differentiates your company, how do you present your value proposition. And in the 4th module, we bring it all together, because that's the key thing that I see people most often have a hard time doing. And then when they figure it out, they get the most reward for.
Clicks, right?
Yeah. Because people, especially as a small business owner, and you're working with these big companies, you feel like, well, I don't want to miss out on an opportunity because I can do this, 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 and this. Whereas if you really hone in and say, I'm the person that can help you with this thing, this one thing, then over time, they get to remember and know you for that one thing. Show up and follow up. So this was a good one. Did
Jerry have a question? Sorry. Did you have a question?
Ahead. Yeah.
No, I just hit my speaker, by accident. Sorry about that.
That's okay. I want to make sure we got all the answers covered. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll have plenty of time for questions and
I'll have plenty of them. Don't worry.
Good. Because we've got the both of you on here. So show up and follow up. That's the 5th module. We actually did a run through of this one right before the WeBank conference, which was very timely because we figured out a lot of different things that we could tell people about the tools to use. In terms of showing up, it's pretty obvious. I think where people typically fall down is the follow-up. So we provide a little more information on that and how to effectively follow up with these companies. I have I've done some work with some of the corporate members in terms of training their suppliers. And some of them say, do not call us. We will call you. And that's then what you have to do. Whereas others are like, I had someone at the conference that was like, let's have a conversation in early August. I was like, great.
Nice.
And so that is on my calendar to follow up with that person in early August. And all the different things in between. So how do you keep on top of that? And actually I'll switch over to the playbook for a second. One of the things we like to share with you is the different tools. So you not only get the information and we talk to you, we also have tools that you'll get as part of the Diversity Masterminds cohort. This is one of them. So this is just the event playbook. We have a bigger roadmap that we'll show you too. But the event playbook brings together all the information that you need. So for example, for this WeBank conference, there's not only just a general conference map, but you could create your own custom conference map before you went. So we would put that in your playbook. We'd go over the agenda and have a chance for you to create these little profiles and snapshots of the companies you want to meet. One of the things that people don't know, so Heather, when we did Stump Diversity Masterminds at the conference, one of the questions was, how do I get more matchmakers? And I asked the person, I said, did you actually reach out and request matchmakers? Did you reach out to her? And she said, I didn't know you could do that. Exactly. So that was one of the things where you can't do it through the app, but there are ways to reach out and do that. So those are the kind of things we bring you through with the show up and follow up module. In module 6, winning the business, we talk about RFPs, and we actually have, as part of that module, an ebook from Lisa Rurik, who's an expert on RFPs that you will get for free as we go over the different tips for winning the business. Then nice, I didn't know you had props.
I do have props.
Yeah. So that's one of the perks that you get from joining Diversity Masterminds. In week 7, we go over increasing your visibility in the network. So this goes back to the being on stage. How am I the person that's on stage? How am I the person that's winning awards, that gets their face in the president's report that they send out? How do I get in the blogs? Heather was a WBE who rocks, for example.
More props.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So how do you approach those things strategically and win those awards? And then the last module is creating and communicating your own supplier diversity program. So some companies who think, well, okay, I've got most of this down. I was talking to a very large company. They were a sponsor at WeBank, and they were saying, I don't know what my differentiator is. As a WBE, we do all of this. We can do anything that our competitors can do. And I said, well, do you have a supplier diversity program? So one of your differentiator in that case as a big company is your ability to actually have a formal program and bring other diverse suppliers in to these companies. And they said, oh, that's the next step. So we end on that because that's the next step. You're probably, in all of these, you might not be ready to create a supplier diversity program tomorrow, but you can start just by tracking your spend, which is something I do every year. And it's always really illuminating and shows me where I have work to do.
Right.
So those are the different modules. Let's stop here for any questions on that, and then we can go into what a sample module looks like and what the roadmap looks like. Any questions?
So my questions are really very specific. So I have in a sense, an esoteric product. So I felt that when I spoke to supplier diversity gatekeepers, they really didn't understand what I was, and really sort of the ad hoc way that I've always been doing it, because I have American Express as a client, I've had Dell as a client, QuickBooks, felt better after the conference than before the conference. I just, I saw the eyes glaze over. Nobody really got what I do. And that's why when I heard, Liz, that you said that, you were doing this, what intrigued me about what you were doing is both of you know what I do, and supplier diversity really well. And Heather, you said that you had heard, my elevator pitch. So again, am I not saying something that would resonate with supplier diversity people? Is it that I have to have them open, which I assume it is, open the gate for me, but then I really don't know who within each company, because it could be sponsorships, it could be marketing, it could be all over the place.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think that, I'm just going to jump in just for a second, Liz, and I'll let you take it from there. I think that this is a great question because, Jerry, you're not alone. First of all, a lot of people will say to us, I sell this. And so how do I get supplier diversity to help me? Because it's not something. And you're right. Most supplier diversity managers know a very little bit about a lot of stuff, unless they happen to come from procurement and they used to buy like IT, for example. And so they really know that space. But regardless of what you're selling, you have to be able to explain it to them in a way that they can explain it to others. So one of those things we do, and to differentiate yourself, is talk about that elevator pitch and how to really make it accessible to everyone that you explain it to. Because the way you're going to explain it to the supplier diversity manager, who, yes, can be a gatekeeper, but can also be your best friend and can get you in those places, is not going to be the way you explain it to the person who's in charge of like philanthropic marketing, or whoever you're going to target internally, and it's going to change every single time that every company. And then we can talk about how do you get to that person, because you will go much farther, much quicker. I don't know what it is. If you can say to the supplier diversity manager, I need to meet John Smith and he's in this department. So so it's a matter of, it's a little bit of research also on your part, but we do cover exactly that point, because even for someone like myself who does sell to the supplier diversity managers, I have to pitch it in a way that resonates with them, and they can then sell it to their budget decision makers.
Yeah.
You're not alone, Jerry, at all.
And I would say there's two things that stood out for me in your description. Again, as Heather said, there's plenty of people that feel the same way, given that, they're like, I don't sell construction, so how do I get in?
Yeah.
But I think you said two things. You said the gatekeeper piece. And I think one thing to think about is, how can the supplier diversity person, I think especially with what you do, how can you work together to create content that is good for them and good for you? Because I think in some cases, for me too, for Heather, we are in a space where, our end client is a business owner, is one of the business owners, but the corporations, by offering that our services together, can also be a help to us, even if they're not going to be the people going through Diversity Masterminds, for example. So I think it's like, okay, where do I actually, yes, I want supplier diversity to give me these introductions, but what can we actually create together that makes them look good and me look good? And then the other thing you said was ad hoc. I think that's a lot of people kind of go and they're like, I'm going to talk to this person because, it's like, I've done business with American Express, so maybe I'm going to talk to Capital One because they have credit cards, so maybe I'll do that. Or, you kind of do it that way, as opposed to saying, part of the strategic part is saying, okay, I saw this person at the summit in Salute. This is the conversation we had. I'm going to follow up, and then I'm going to plan to see them again. And maybe I'm going to ask them if they have a supplier summit and try to get there. I think for most, I heard someone in a very similar situation to you, where she was like, yeah, I don't like, the corporations don't necessarily buy my services, but they sponsor me to speak at these events. I talked to her, she's like, why aren't you speaking at WeBank? I was like, well, I applied for one of the business labs, but we didn't get it. And she was like, oh, you need a corporate sponsor to do this. You need a corporate sponsor to say, I'm going to speak at this event. And I was like, yeah, we're working on it.
Correct. Yeah. So that is, so, one thing that I did walk away with is exactly that. So I do a lot around financing. If I could get a corporate sponsor, whether it's a bank, a credit card company, to be the sponsor of it, honestly, I have it on the shelf. I bumped into an entrepreneur who actually saw me do the presentation, and it's best if I have an entrepreneur who has raised financing, where I'm interviewing them and then, explaining what the takeaways are. And I'm, again, because American Express is a client, I did pitch them on that, but I've not heard boo from them. So, now it's time to take it to other companies. Right. Possibility. But yeah, so exactly what that's a perfect parallel is to what you're doing.
Yeah. And what this person mentioned was that she's like, yeah, I have some corporate sponsors in supplier diversity. She said, people say it takes, 7 times or 12 times in front of them. She's like, it took me 30.
Oh my God. Yeah. So it took me 6 years to get American Express to be a client. And unfortunately, it was because somebody passed away.
Oh, wow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, you're on the right track. You're at the beginning of the road. And it's just, okay, how do I consistently stay in front of these people so they think of me when there is an opportunity? Yeah. So any other questions? Christina, do you have any questions?
No questions yet.
Okay, great.
Okay, so, yeah, one other question.
Oh, sure.
So in some ways, so when I'm doing, let's say, content for somebody, that's something that maybe there is a request for proposal or something that the corporation would understand really well. In other cases, I really want to develop a financing conference called Money Matters, Diverse Funding for Diverse Founders.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's the kind of thing that I'm looking for a presenting sponsor, and had hoped to meet and one where I really goofed up big time, and didn't recognize the head of supplier diversity at Bank of America. So I really messed that one up, and I'm trying to dig myself out of it, and having a little trouble there. But
we've all done that at one point in time.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So is that, and the reason that they were so open to it was Pam Eason specifically introduced me to the head of Bank of America's, supplier diversity, because she knows that I want to, do this financing conference.
Is that Robin?
No, I can't remember her name. I have it. She's the chair of WeBank. I don't remember her name. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. An introduction from Pam is always great.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you. We'll certainly talk to you. Yeah. I think that that's exactly right. Like, okay, here's, Bank of America, these are the things I want to do. In some cases it's like, okay, can supplier diversity, again, is supplier diversity the people you want to talk to, or who do you want to get to? Is it like the marketing officer? Is it their, like the venture person? And I think the more, the more information you have for them, the better, because they can be like, oh, okay, I can introduce you to that person. Or on the flip side, I was talking to one of the companies, and I said, and I know because I do a little angel investing and I do a little mentorship of startups around DC, and I was like, oh, well, you guys have an incubator, like a venture lab where you have startup companies. And I was inquiring, do you have any insight into that? Like, how many are certified, or would they want to get certified? And she's like, I didn't even know we had that. Yeah. She's like, I don't know anything about it. I was like, oh, okay. Then the thing is, then what I can be is a resource for that person too. It's like, oh, great. Well, I can connect with people, that kind of thing. So it's much more, I like to think of it as much more of a two-way street than you're just waiting for them to open the gate, because sometimes you can bring them information that'll help.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else?
Sorry. Yeah. One other one. So I'm also, so I am a sole proprietor. I work in distributed teams, and so I think both of you know that I write articles in Forbes as a contributor, and I had interviewed this one woman who is very active in supplier diversity, 20-person company. And as I'm interviewing her, she's telling me that in addition to her company, she has a consortium of other 20-person marketing firms that together in aggregate, she can pitch bigger businesses.
Titanium.
And even hopefully, yes, exactly. And as I'm going, I'm on the phone with Robin, I'm now like going, oh my God, I really would love to be part of this group, but I'm way too small. And at the end of the conversation, Robin says to me, you've really inspired me. I'd like, we're thinking about bringing your level company in, so they may create a new level membership for smaller companies like mine. So it's also understanding how to work in a subprime relationship.
That's that tier 2 that we're talking about, the know your target client. Exactly. Yeah. Robin's great, and she's like a mad genius.
Yes, she is. And I'm not sure if we're having lunch this week or next week, but I hope to learn. I think by now she knows what it is that she's going to be offering to me in another sort of class of companies.
Excellent.
Yeah. And I think, you make a good point too about your size. I know a lot of companies are think, well, am I too small to do business with them? Is that the answer? And I think that's when you look at, can you partner up? Are there other, prime or subprime opportunities working with their second tier companies? And also, I'm a sole proprietor and I've worked with these companies too. It's just a matter of packaging what you can do. Like, yeah, like I'm not going to I don't do marketing, but if I did as a sole proprietor, I'm not going to replace their agency of record. But what are the things that I can offer to do that? So I think that's really smart too. And to have those conversations. I think a lot of people look at it like, they asked me to talk to this other person, or they asked me to register in the portal, and they see everything as kind of a distancing. Whereas sometimes it's more of just a screen. Like, are you going to do what I ask you to do?
Yeah. Yes.
So, yeah. Great. All right. So this is what I'll just give you a sense of what the modules look like. We're not going to go through module 1 because that's
no trade secrets here, guys.
Separate area. Yeah. But this is what we go into. And, I think the modules do look a lot like this. It's very interactive where there's a lot of questions. Again, we want to customize it to the people that are in the cohort.
Which is why we keep it small.
And then and we keep it small. And we also keep enough time so that you can ask questions of what you want to know. So we go over in module 1, we really set the stage. We go back way up to diversity and inclusion, the business case around diversity and inclusion, introduction to diversity opportunities. So there's not only the conferences where you talk to the people and then try to build relationships and get business, but there's also a lot of other things you can do to elevate your visibility and be a resource to the companies that you're doing business with. For example, one of those opportunities at the conference, they have the student entrepreneur program where students come in and they get to, at the end of the week, they pitch their business, but they have mentors. They have a corporate mentor and a WBE mentor. And one of my clients was like, well, I don't know, like I'm going to be pretty busy at the conference. Am I going to have time to do this? It was like, well, you're going to have, not only are you going to go to something there's a sponsor of the whole program. So FedEx was a sponsor of the student entrepreneurship program, but you're also going to have a co-mentor, which is one of the corporations. And she ended up with somebody from one of the pharmaceutical companies, and she and her co-mentor hit it off and had a great time. And now they have another conversation going. So that's, I think, one of the key benefits of giving back, of doing that volunteering, those additional opportunities where you're like, oh, great, another opportunity for me to, give my time. But it really pays off. I volunteered doing a postcard session. So if you went to the WeBank conference, there's a spot where you could write postcards to someone who's inspired you, to a future WBE. Yeah, it was cute. And so I was like, I'll volunteer and get people to do this. And while I was there, I actually signed up somebody for Diversity Masterminds on the spot. And I wrote back. Yeah. And so I wrote back to my forum leader, to Jane. I said, yeah, volunteering does pay off. I had a captive audience there for a few minutes, and we had a good time. And I wrote a postcard to a future WBE. So I think as we look about opportunities, we do concentrate not only on like, this is how you do a conference, this is how you send your follow-up emails, but also there's additional opportunities that might not be as obvious. And they're not always easy to find. With WeBank or the other certification organizations, sometimes it's one email that goes out or a couple of tweets, and you really have to keep your eye on it. So we try to, make sure that you don't miss those opportunities.
And also, if you're certified through multiple organizations, we'll help you prioritize those opportunities. Because I know I'm certified, my company is dual certified. And so I get a lot of these emails coming at me saying, oh, do you want to volunteer for this? Do you want to be a part of this? And my husband's for sure going to go nuts if I take on any more volunteering opportunities.
Right.
I have to prioritize, because those volunteering, that time, that expertise, giving back, and it is frustrating because we're business owners and we're trying to build our business, but we also have to realize that by us giving to them, that's why we do get these WBEs who rock, and we do get the interviews, and we do get these pieces because they get to know you and trust you. And they see that you're somebody who's not just in it for you, but you're in it for the whole ecosystem, as WeBank called it at the conference.
Yeah.
So it'll help you prioritize those opportunities and which ones, are going to fit into your schedule the best, and which ones you can which will give you the most ROI as well.
Right. Right. So that's what we cover in the first module. Like I mentioned, we talk about diversity and inclusion because that's really important. We also talk about some of the key statistics. I think one of the things that I like to do in setting the stage is tell people why corporations do this, why they have supplier diversity, because many people come to me, before they're certified or if they're newly certified, and they're like, well, corporations get a tax break, right? And that's why they do it. Or they have like they have some sort of mandate to do it. And really, it's not the case. It did start out, supplier diversity started out as a means to address social and economic disparity, but it's grown to be a real driver of their bottom lines, diversity and inclusion more and more. And it's also not only in the US. Globally, people are starting to realize the benefits of, not just starting, but really putting an emphasis on the benefits of diversity and inclusion in their companies.
Makes them more money.
Yeah. And you can see
bottom line, it's all about the bottom line.
Exactly. Like, here are some of those statistics. Even if you just look at the buying power. So women control 20 trillion in global spending. Jerry, I'm sure you're very familiar with this.
Yes.
And then if you look at Black Americans, Asian Americans, Native Americans, I mean, we're looking at $2 trillion there. And the way I phrase this, I do diversity and inclusion training for one of the corporations. And when I talk to their employees, I say, if you looked at this, if you were in charge, if you were the account manager for a $2.2 trillion account, wouldn't you want to not lose that account? And that's the way the corporations are looking at it. It's not just a nice to have. So,
Jerry, I have an even more exciting statistic for you. I know Liz has heard this a million times. Sorry.
That's okay.
Do you know, Jerry, that 70% of wine purchases in the U.S. are made by women?
Oh, wow. No, I did not know, but that makes total sense.
I know, right? And did you know so Wine Intelligence magazine did a study, and they asked that 70% of the women, all the wine purchases, if you could easily identify an alcohol as women owned, would you be more likely to buy it? Guess what percentage said yes?
80%?
90%.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
I knew I had a good one for you, Jerry.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah. And that's not just wine. I mean, that's why they developed the women-owned logo, right? Like, yep. Walmart did that because they said, oh, we have all this information on our consumers. How do we show them that we are doing business with women-owned companies?
So This may not be a question for you. This might be more for like a Pam Eason and the regional CEOs. But there's now like a bunch of different women's organizations that are coming out with their own either certification or method of buying women-owned businesses, and it doesn't matter whether it's I think Visa with Rebecca Minkoff, and off the top of my head, I can't remember the others. Is like WeBank looking at stuff like that to be more proactive in that area? Because it just surprised me that it wasn't just one initiative, it was multiple ones, and it's like, I think it's important, but I think we're now in overkill.
Well, I know that like Yelp, for example, has their whole women-owned initiative now, but the problem with Yelp is that I can just check a box and say that I'm women-owned.
Right.
So they don't actually ask for certification, and that's the differentiator. So when you have the logo, the women-owned logo, or you have the Women of the Vine and Spirit logo, that means that you are WeBank certified, which is the gold standard of women's certification. Some of the other organizations that initially launched certifications realized that it wasn't the best decision and have now rolled back on that decision. So WeBank is very on top of it. Pam is extraordinarily strategic, and she's very smart, and she is on top of all of these companies, which is why they have strategic alliances with WIP and with what was the other one that was there at the conference? Oh, you weren't at the forum event, Liz. There's a couple of them that she is now pulling in. She's embracing those other organizations in order to make sure that her WBEs have as much opportunity to utilize their WeBank certification.
Yep. Yeah. It just there's many of them at this point, and to me it makes it more confusing.
Well, some are better than
yeah,
others, and that's like anything else. And so that's why it's important for someone like yourself who's in a position to share that information, to show which ones actually have certification behind it and which ones are, I could tell you all day long I'm a Black-owned business. Tell me I'm not.
Right.
Without a certification, it's just my word. And unfortunately, human nature is when there's money involved, people tend to say things that, that's why we call them yes men. That's when someone says, I can do everything. Corporations don't believe you.
Yeah. No, I totally understand. Yeah.
They, when I worked at We Connect, the IFC, the International Finance Corporation, because they did a lot of stuff trying to get money into the hands of women for small businesses and financing and things, they referred to that problem as male contagion. That, if we give like preferred rates for women businesses that are lending, then all of a sudden, there's like, these people come and they say, I'm a woman-owned business.
I'm woman-owned. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. And I love that term. I was like, the contagion.
Yeah, it's totally true. All of a sudden, they're not afraid to have a company that's all of a sudden they're not afraid to have their wife as the boss.
Right.
But before it was like, no, I'm the boss. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So, and then this is the other one, which is that, for every dollar spent on supplier diversity programs, companies see $133 in return. So that's another reason why they're doing this. It's not just lip service. It's not just PR. The companies that are really, really good at this recognize these economic drivers behind it.
Where does that stat come from?
This comes from
the Hackett Group.
The Hackett Group.
Would you mind sending it to me? Because when I write, I'll just the next time I write about certification, that's worth including.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of those stats, by the way, Jerry, if you ever need them.
Yeah. So just send them to me because you just never know when I'll use it.
Yeah. Great. Awesome. And I see someone else joined us. Anju, hi, welcome. And please just feel free to jump in with questions as we go. So we talk about the business case for diversity and inclusion in the first one. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is not only so you know the business case, but also you know how to position yourself within the business case. There's a lot of different things that they're looking at when they're looking at diversity and inclusion, and specifically women-owned companies or minority-owned companies, diverse companies. Yes, there can be some flexibility on pricing. Yes, they're looking for innovation. And they're also looking for, that obviously they want good customer service. That's not a differentiator. That's one of the things. This was one of Heather's big things, her pet peeves. But there's also community wealth building. Like going forward, there's a long-term project of developing communities so they can maintain the purchasing power in these communities. They want to build better customers, better employees in the places where they work. And to do that, they have to invest in the small companies that are employing these people and educating the communities and so forth. So it's a short, medium, and long-term competitive advantage that the companies get from diversity and inclusion. So we go over that and then look at some of the statistics for women-owned businesses and minority-owned businesses, veteran-owned businesses. So we know it's great. We know why companies want to do it, but it's still difficult. It's not complicated, but it is hard for them to find the women-owned businesses they want, to get them into their processes. And part of that's because of the challenges we talked about at the beginning here. The challenges that you have, that the business owners have, and getting in front of the corporations. And then once they get in front of them, getting to the right people is the same challenges that they have, where they're big companies and one person meeting another person at a conference doesn't mean, okay, now we've solved our goals. So that's why these certification programs, these organizations, the events, and all of these things exist to help make it easier for both sides to connect. But there's still work to do. Even the very best companies, so the companies in the $1 billion roundtable, about 10% of their spend is with diverse businesses. Okay, and then the opportunities. So we mentioned the opportunities a little bit before. The these are just some of the ones we talk about. Events and conferences is a big one. That's I think the major place where people meet each other. There's matchmaking within those conferences, and we give you the tips for matchmaking at the different conferences, because as Heather has pointed out in the past too, the matchmaking is different at the different conferences. Right.
And even just knowing which conferences to go to, because look, we can't be at every conference and every event. So how do you prioritize the events and the conferences? How do I know of all those emails I'm getting? Do I go to all 52 conferences next month? I can't. So we help you prioritize, figure out how to decide which conferences to choose, which events to choose, and that the sorting criteria that you can use moving forward.
Yeah. And the same thing with scholarships and visibility. One of my clients had an opportunity to go to, one of their potential clients and be a part of their innovation lab. And in looking at it, I was like, this is a great opportunity, but it's not right for your company. You're not looking for funding. They're looking for companies that they can take along and be an equity partner with, which is amazing. But I was like, that's not what you want. You want them as a customer, and you're going to spend a lot of time and probably not meet the right people here. So they said no to that opportunity. And then with that, other opportunities spring up in its place. So when you take out the stuff that you don't need to go to, you have room for the other things that getting on campus with other companies that might be helpful. And then we talk a little bit about the international links. So I come from WeConnect International, but NGLCC, NMSDC, and WeBank all have international components. Does Disability In?
Not yet.
Not yet. So there's different opportunities. The different organizations have varying levels of communication and relationship with those different organizations. So we help you get through that and make those international links if that's something you're interested in. I think one thing I learned at WeConnect was that what the corporations are really looking for, especially in the US, is they're not so much looking for, okay, here are all these companies from these other places that I want to do business with. They're looking for US companies that have the ability to do business elsewhere. And they can help, if they can help promote those companies in South Africa or with their, European buyers, then that's really what they're looking for. So it's a good opportunity for US businesses. Okay. We have some FAQs. This is just to prompt some, people's questions as we go through the module. Because again, it's very interactive, a lot like this, where you have an opportunity to ask questions. We talk about the business to business versus B2C. This is another thing we hear a lot. Does it matter if I'm a service company? I think product companies have it easier. I think service companies have it easier. I think everybody has a different view of that. So we go a little bit over that and what the different opportunities are for service versus consumer businesses is. And then the homework. So this brings us to one of the things that really makes us different from just taking a webinar and saying, okay, I got some good information, is that we actually have homework for you to see not only, okay, this is the information, but also now you go and start to create your roadmap so you have something to take away with you. This is an example of the homework we have in the first module. We want you to identify opportunities, look at corporate members that you want to connect with, log into your certification portal and review your profile. We talk about that and how you can use that as a tool, differentiator and value proposition, and adding the certification logos to your materials. The way we keep track of all this homework is we actually have a roadmap that we provide you.
And every single module, just to make the point, is builds on the next one. So if you're like, why do they want me to find the 3 board members? There is a reason for it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't have it pulled up. So hold on one second. Let me stop sharing. Does anyone have any questions while I get this up?
Sorry, I keep muting myself.
Yeah,
go ahead, John.
Go ahead.
No, I keep muting myself because I'm sneezing, so sorry. Go ahead.
So if I'm working on, let's say, a couple of research ideas, Is that something that you can help critique? And I'm not going to say point me in the right direction, because I know I may not know who the sponsor is, but I understand how to,
Like if you're saying, how do I pitch this to this company to get to the right person? Yes, that is some of the value.
So
the
if I
value
have
proposition differentiators, yes, that we.
if I have a big, if I have a
ahead.
big idea around doing research around the value of certification, identifying who those corporate partners who might be interested in being the sponsor.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
You have those kind of ideas, and also so the next module we would review that homework and say, did you struggle with any of it? What was the hard part of finding it? And so that way, because the trick is that after the 8 weeks, you can do this all yourself moving forward. So we want you to have those tools to know, if I am going to, next year in 2020, when I'm looking for these conferences, how can I decide myself without having to run it past Heather and Liz? We want you to be able to, have that understanding of how to do it again, to repeat the process and be successful with it.
And also, as you grow, to be able to take this roadmap and give it to someone else, so that someone else on your team, so they say, okay, I know where we are, I know where we're going, and these are the things I have to do.
Yep.
So this is an example of your roadmap. So this is what you'd get, and we'd say, okay, this is your homework. When you come back for the next week, we want you to have identified these things. We keep it light. We know you have full-time jobs, running your company.
Responsibilities, yeah.
Yeah. We don't want you to have to sell your company so that you can take care of your homework. But these are some of the things that we do. And then again, you have it all together. We go over it. And if anything gets stuck, you can talk about it with us or the rest of the group. And then you go on to week 2. And we have homework for each week. So that's pretty much how it works. That's what you get. You get the modules, the in-person trainings, the peer review and accountability. You get the roadmap, you get the event playbook, and you get the freebies that we have from our different partners, like the RFP success book. We also have some government contracting resources too. So that's everything you get. And and we are available if you have questions. I think we can go over when the next cohorts are. The next one starts on August 7th, so you can sign up for that now. There's another one that also starts in September, and those are both on the website. Anything else? Yeah, any questions? Anything we missed?
I have a question. This is Anju.
Hey, Anju.
Hey. I wanted to know, so this course would cover all the topics which you said as in a theory part of it, or would I can also bring up the cases where I have initiated the efforts. We are into IT services company. We have started the work with the prospective clients, but we are not seeing the results as yet. Like an example I can give you, I have been in touch with Adient, the company which makes the cars, car seats for the cars. We had given them our proposal. I know we are into IT services, and already there are big names in there. So maybe that is where we are falling short of. So I think we are trying to do as much as is required. We did do the matchmaking in the last year. We got chance. This year somehow we didn't get a chance to meet any of the customer.
At WeBank, you mean?
WeBank, yes.
Oh, you were there? I didn't see you. Yeah.
Next time I'll make sure to meet you. So,
Yeah, so I think so, Andrew, you missed the very beginning when we showed all the different modules that we cover. And so, yeah, there are definitely parts, and that would be part of the differentiator. Are you targeting them correctly? Are you targeting the right people altogether? Can you use like the Ford people to help you get in deeper with this prime supplier? Because my guess is that if they're making seats for these cars, they're selling to Ford or Honda or Toyota, who all have billion-dollar roundtable programs. So can they help you in that capacity as well? So those are some of the things that we would cover in the modules.
And
yes,
we would definitely, and we also talked about how we do try to keep it small. So yes, you have an opportunity to bring up your specific issues, and we can all talk about it.
And one of the best parts about being in groups with other diverse suppliers is that sometimes you'll say that, Andrew, and someone's like, oh, I just sold them something last year. Let me introduce you to the person that I know. It happens all the time that WBEs know each other, other MBEs, whether it is, and you are also dual certified. Oh, not dual certified, yeah, that's right. But you're certified through WeBank, so all the other people in the group, whether they be WeBank, NMSDC, NGLCC, Disability In certified, a lot of times you have the opportunity to utilize your other diverse businesses.
okay.
So we have about 5 minutes left. If anybody else, any other questions? We want to make sure you guys fully understand everything. And if you have anyone that you think would be a great person for us to reach out to that could benefit from this program, let us know and we'll send them this demo as well.
Yep. Okay.
Really, Jerry? No more questions? Come on. I expected
No,
like
I do, but I think it'll be better if I take them offline.
Okay, no problem, no problem.
Okay. Yeah, well, we can also give people a couple minutes back. Thank you for joining us. We will follow up with this. We're going to send you this recording and let us know if you want us to send it to anyone else, as Heather said. And yeah, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. Thanks for joining.
Terrific. Thank you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.